I know that you've all been prepared for this, but I thought I'd just remind you just the same.
Can you handle that, Blondie?
Game over, man. Game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
It was pure evil.
I want to buy some radio ad time.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
We got Carmack in the back, and this is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. Let's get to it, motherfuckers.
Basically, Reanimator.
So, Noel, we're back for another day. Yesterday, we did Alice, Sweet Alice. Now we're back with From Beyond, from director Stuart Gordan, starring many of the same cast from Reanimator. And we're going to cover the 1980s today. And this is my choice movie I seen once. Totally forgot what it was about. And
Same, yeah.
I literally just I seen the synergy. I heard Stuart Gordan talking about it on a documentary, and then we were doing this History of Horror series, and I thought it'd be a cool bit of synergy with our first episode, Reanimator, and include this in the series. Totally forgot what the movie about. It is fucking messed up.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And you know, after watching it now at least twice, maybe 3 times in total, I still, like, pineal gland. Do you want synopsis for this film? Pineal gland.
Yeah. Probably
there you go.
We're both probably wrong.
Yeah, we're both probably wrong.
Yeah, I think the pineal gland.
Pineal, yeah. And it was about, the concept is that it's an extrasensory organ, and they built a resonator that taps into it and makes it grow and evolves it, and you obviously start to experience the world at a different dimension or outside of kind of, I don't know, the normal universe. And that all sounds very high concept, but it's all kind of like rapey and in the fucking attic of a house, you know. It's
to me it felt like Reanimator mixed with Hellraiser in a lot of ways.
You know what, I just thought today that I had Hellraiser vibes because of the body horror aspect,
and just the whole sexual element to it that was in Reanimator, but it wasn't really as central as it is in this movie.
No,
you know,
and Hellraiser, at least the original Hellraiser, it was based in a house essentially as well. Like, it almost all, if not all, took part in that one house.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
This had the mental institution and stuff like that, but it all came back to the house. The house is
like the whole second act is entirely in the house.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a messed up watch. I mean, I'm not particularly into. I like horror that makes you uncomfortable. That's why I think the sign, but not necessarily like, that's pretty gross.
When that thing came out for the first time, I was like, when I was watching that scene with Jeff Combs' head starts bulging for the first time, I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And then I forgot about it. And then, like, a little while later, he's getting eaten by a monster. For some reason, he comes out hairless.
Yeah. He comes out completely hairless.
And then, like, his fucking pineal gland, seemingly like his third eye. Because, you know, it's like in mythology, and a lot of people have postulated that the pineal gland is actually your all-seeing eye, the chakra or whatever. And and that's why, like, if you look at Egyptian iconography and stuff, we have a lot of the all-seeing eye, and it's often placed in the forehead and stuff like that. And how do they know about it and shit? But like, I think, like, when I seen that though, and it just pops out his head, I'm just like, that is one of the most fucked up things I've seen in a long fucking time. Like, it's like,
it was a crazy film. It was very enjoyable. Like, you don't even know how to critique it, because anything you didn't like about it, like the kind of over the topness of it, was sort of the point.
Yeah, the Stuart Gordon style though.
So like, you can't say, oh, it was a bit too much over the top, and I was like, you probably shouldn't be watching Stuart Gordon.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you watch the Reanimator and then you watch another film and say it's over the top. Did you not watch Reanimator properly?
Yeah, exactly.
You know
and I'm just
mean?
like, it's just
there
like,
was a head giving a woman a head.
Don't go to Michael Bay if you don't like explosions. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
like just know your audience. Or know your filmmakers, your creators. Yeah, but it's hard to get bogged down in the story, because the story was. This guy's crazy. No, he's not. Let's go check if he's crazy. Oh my God, he's not crazy. Now I'm crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's what happened.
And that's the end of the episode. We'll see you back tomorrow.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Next up, interview the vampire.
But it was enjoyable. It was well sectioned. It didn't drag.
Yeah.
It had a lot of practical effects.
Yeah.
And me and you were both big fans of practical effects, and this went really, really into the prosthetics and all of that kind of jazz.
It was very ambitious for a movie that was meant for $4.5 million. I only seen the budget from the Chi earlier was making them, but I think it's like $4.5 million it was made for, and it's very impressive. It shows you what you can actually do. And one thing I noticed about the creature for lack of better, Dr. Pretorius, knowing he comes back from the other dimension.
Yeah.
The design of the monster definitely inspired Slither. Have you ever seen Slither by James Gunn?
This is what I'm talking about. Those films actually do make me uncomfortable because it's just like, oh, that's
that viscous texture.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
Even if it was not real, if I'm on that set, I don't want to be touching that fucking.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It looks like a greasy dick.
Oh, that's it. That's like Savini and guys like that are such geniuses because they've been around.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you see Guillermo del Toro's house.
William the Bull.
And I'm just like, yeah, it's a beautiful house. I'm not staying in your fucking house. It's freaky. He has all these, you know, some of the more strange creatures he's used. And I'm like, yeah, I like horror, but yeah, no, this just makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I'd be the exact opposite. I'd be like, can I stay here for a year so I can look at everything for at least 7 hours at a time?
Yeah, I think it's Tom Savini's house, and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
But I think it was when, like, any special effects in this film, they couldn't get away with it. There was those weird flying fish things that were in the air.
Yeah, look cheap as fuck.
Looked cheap as fuck, but they didn't probably looked better than whatever they could put on the end of a string. They couldn't get it to. It was an eel of some description, and they couldn't get it to. They couldn't get it to move, something prosthetic to move in the right way. So they did what they had to do. They looked at it and said, right, here's the only way I see this, and the people behind the camera deserve a lot of credit.
I suppose you could kind of get away with saying that because you're looking into another realm and you're not interacting with it at that moment. It's kind of ethereal. Maybe that's why it looks nearly holographic. Yeah. Because you're not through the barrier until you move. And then it detects you and then it came out. Remember, it looked different when it attacked Jeffrey Combs. I think it was Jeffrey Combs that attacked, didn't it? The jellyfish. They locked onto his... No, it was the cop. Bubba.
Yeah, he got killed.
No, at that time, remember...
he got his wrist bit, but no, that was him. And that was the first time they turned it on.
Yeah, do you remember Jeffrey Combs like, whatever you do when the field is active, do not move. The cop was like... Yeah, I'll move. And Barbara Crampton's character is like, you want to move? I'll move along with you. You know what I mean? And he was like telling them not to move by moving. I told you not to move. And he goes over to them and he's like, grabs them.
I was born moving.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a shark. I came out of the womb swimming.
But of course, they had to have. In actuality, you'd be like, yeah, I'm not turning on that machine again.
Yeah, no, but you can understand. See, the thing is, when you have scientists as your
that's what he was going to.
It's the hunt for knowledge. You know,
that's what they did because he built it. Jeffrey Combs, Jeffrey Combs' character, you have the cheat sheet to hand. Do you mind?
Yeah, I'll check it here. He built it with Dr. Pretorius.
Pretorius. I remember
his name is what a name, Crawford Tillinghast.
Crawford.
Tillinghast, I think is how.
So Crawford was his first name.
Yeah,
because they kept calling him Crawford, but I just assumed that when I was watching
Dr. Crawford.
Yeah, Dr. Crawford.
Her name was Catherine McMichaels.
Catherine, right? Well, they were both scientists, so they were the only way. You know these films
Bubba Brownlee, that has to be one of the most racially...
Yeah,
that was one of the most racist names
I did not know. I thought Bubba was a nickname, even when Forrest Gump growing up. I just thought nobody's actually called Bubba.
Yeah.
Nobody takes this precious little baby and introduces to the family and the grandparents gather around and he goes, I'd like to introduce everyone to Bubba.
Yeah, no, it is just a nickname though, I think, because even Bubba's name isn't Bubba.
That's what I was thinking,
Blue or something, I think his name is. My name is Benjamin Buford Blue. People call me Bubba.
That was it. Yeah. But he was cool. Like he was kind of the voice of reason.
Yeah.
The whole time. Well, he was the one who was just like
hot pants, tighty ready.
Yeah, did you see that? Yeah,
that scene was one of the most disturbing scenes. Like the fucking run through to the climax is some of the most disturbing shit I've seen contained within 25 minutes of a movie ever.
That's fucking really.
But we kind of talked a little bit in broad strokes there, but like at the start of the movie, we get introduced to the kind of the pivotal antagonist, the one that's central.
It starts very quickly.
Yeah, it starts nearly. It's like it feels like there might be more of this movie out there.
I won't be surprised.
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes.
And maybe it's not out there. Maybe unfortunately it ended up on it ended up on the floor of the editing room, and that's all there is. Because at the start, you pretty much have the nosy, the neighbour, the dog. She's coming up, and your man breaks through the door with an axe.
Way around. It opens up with the machine running. Your man's doing an experiment. He goes up the two of them are running. No, Jeffrey Combs is in the room, and the thing starts activating or something.
Yeah.
He goes and gets the doctor, brings the doctor in, Dr. Pretorius, and then
the resonator was the name of the machine.
Yeah, and then pretty much the other dimension opens up, and then shit starts going down, and then it cuts to
outside.
Yeah, the woman and her dog.
She's
barking.
complaining to the cops. Yeah, yeah, you told me. Yeah, and
they're making weird noises. They got purple lights and everything, or some shit. Which I was like, fair.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah,
it's like
opening up like dimensions to a parallel universe.
Yeah,
after 10.
After 10. Watershed.
Yeah, but she it was good because obviously your man gets his head bit off. And your man kind of goes down for being crazy, even though there's no sign of your man's head. So he.
Yeah, and like when the cops arrive, she's fleeing, and he's clearly fleeing. Like he's in fear for his life.
Yeah,
he doesn't look like a dude that's fleeing a murder scene. He's got no blood on him or anything. He looks terrified. He outruns her. Like, you know what I mean? If I seen that, I'd be like, maybe the old woman's after him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like what the fuck?
And Combs played. Yeah, I like that. He only like there's so many Reanimator parallels. But I like that he got to play a more level-headed, like still that kind of like pursuit of knowledge. But he had like, we shouldn't be fucking around with this.
Yeah,
and it was only to clear his own. It was only to clear his own name that he was even considering to turn it back on for a second. And then of course,
and he didn't want to go back there. He was really happy to stay there if he.
And then it spiraled straight away. And then of course, for some reason, the machine.
Raisinator.
Yeah, there is some Raisinator. For some reason, that the machine started being able to activate itself after a while, and
I think it was him activating it maybe from the other side.
Yeah, and obviously the longer your exposure, because Crawford got a pineal gland breakthrough thingy, and your one just got really horny. She was at the horny stage.
Yeah.
What the hell was that about? I suppose it was
to do with the increase probably of dopamine or something.
But they did. When they turned on the machine first, you could see Crawford and Catherine kind of looking at each other like, with come hither eyes. And Bubba.
Stuart Gordon loves to get Barbara Crampton's shirt off.
Yeah.
Oh my god. A with good cause.
I bet you she just picks up the phone and goes, how many times do I have to take my boobs out? And he's like, just the one.
Yeah.
Maybe twice.
And this time the head's actually going to be attached to the body.
Yeah, exactly. And it was all, but that's it. You have to touch on the parallels. The parallels are this. They had a creepy scientist, pervy scientist at the forefront who kind of ends up, like in Reanimator, he ends up being reanimated, and in From Beyond, he ends up being the first person to cross over into this other dimension and come back all pervy. And then you had Jeffrey Combs as a kind of quirky, to be mild, scientist. Different demeanor, different personality, but scientist.
More subservient than Herbert West.
And then Catherine, Barbara Crampton played an intellectual woman. She was trying to get her doctorate in Reanimator. In this one, she was a therapist of some or a
she was a psychologist. I think she was.
She was at the forefront of whatever the hell she was doing.
She was doing psychology. I think she was a psychologist, and that's what she was called in to assess. What's his face? Crawford Tillinghast. And then when he
Tillinghast,
what a name! And when she was she heard his story, she seen the possibilities, and which is kind of logical. She said the only way to prove if he's telling the truth or not is if we go and turn on this machine. But then, I thought it was hilarious. So, let's just send one guy with her. That's it. One guy. This guy.
A fairly intimidating dude, to be fair. But
crazy be crazy.
Oh yeah, crazy.
You know what I mean? Not like they were handcuffing him at night or anything.
Yeah, axe to the skull is axe to the skull.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So if you look at Scatman Carruthers, bigger than Jack Nicholson, what happened? Axe to the chest.
Yeah.
No more Scatman. Beat up. But you know what I mean?
Done.
Worst cross country trip ever.
Yeah. But this film had. It was good because you were watching it kind of going, I'm watching this because I'm a horror fan. I didn't take it seriously at any point. It certainly wasn't scary, but I don't think he was going for
more
scary.
Grotesque.
Yeah, it was grotesque, and it was kind of delightfully campy, if I'm able to say it that way.
Satirical horror.
It was,
like Evil Dead or something.
Yeah, and it was something that there's just, I don't know, it's something that I don't know how to put it into a sentence, but like with Evil Dead and stuff like that, we watch it and you kind of go, well, it's not scary, which is supposed to be the absolute primary thing that a horror film is.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference between a horror film and an action film? Oh, a horror film is scary, an action film is exhilarating.
Yeah.
But it's not. These films, these campy films, I don't know. I think they bring out the filmmaker in us. It was just like, wow, like you said, for 4.5. Like, even that 4 million, man, that gets you into a studio. That gets you your cameras. That gets you your lights. Yeah. That first 4 million gets swallowed very fucking quickly. Yeah. Before anyone says action.
Most of that money is special effects, I said. Like.
Most of that money is special effects, yeah. And you have to have high-end gear, and you have to rent you have the studio, you have to fly people in.
He probably got lucky because he knew a lot of the cast, so they probably did it for a bit cheaper.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, or even like, I'm trying to get this film off the ground, like 5% of proceeds or something like that, because a lot of people have their, that's what actors seem to do now. They put a pound of flesh in and they say, right, but I want,
it only made 1.2 million back.
That's I bet, you know, it made 1.2 million in its initial run. Yeah, became a cult classic.
Of course, like
and in like horror-thons, like I used to go to. Yeah. It's making that money. That film is making a little all of the time. Like, it was on Netflix. They had a run on Netflix. That's the last time I watched it. It was a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we were just like, I just watched it and I went, okay, so it's Rihanna Bear. I didn't realize it was Stuart Gordon. We're both Stuart Gordon.
Yeah, no, he did that on purpose. He said he wanted to make it the kind of the inverse of Rihanna Bear.
And he did. Yeah, he did. And like, I mean, if there was, obviously, I'm not going to give this film a 10.
Is this a Lovecraft story as well as Rihanna Bear?
Actually, you know what? That's a good question.
Because it had very Lovecraftian feel about it.
I wish, you know what? It's a good question, and I wish I had thought of it. Yeah. Because I would have delved into that, but. Yeah, you look at that. I actually do have something to say as opposed to the there. But I was thinking that you couldn't give this a 10 out of 10 in any kind of way, shape, or form. But what you would, but the guys who said, right, I need a monster that's like this and fucked up, and some artist rendition said, look, he'd look something like this, and the guy goes, right, so I've got like ballistic gel, prosthetic, PVC. Some animatronics, and like somebody got together and built it. Those guys, 5 fucking stars.
Yeah, and they're
absolutely 5 stars.
They were very clever. Like when Crawford was being chased down the stairs.
That was POV. I love that. Yeah, you can't catch me. I love that. I have one way to take. I am the most powerful being in the universe. Yeah, but can you catch me?
It's like nah.
Look, I have flames on the side of my runners. Make me run.
Imagine this all over. But it is a H.P. Lovecraft story as well. Written in 1934. That fucking dude. Would love to pick his brain. He seems to be obsessed with interdimensional travel.
Yeah, you know what? He did some drugs. That's what. 100%. You know, he's an amazing writer that did some fucking drugs. Like, amazing. I'm not trying to be little, like, as in, he's fucking Lovecraft. He doesn't need me to fucking... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, he was an absolute freak of nature. I think just had the right experiences to turn.
Sure, like 1934, he wrote that story. It was adapted 52 years later. Like,
it was adapted, like, I mean, you know, you're talking about a guy who, that's the first time he heard sound in film, it probably blew his absolute mind. You have to, you know... Yeah. And this is it. We were talking recently about James Bond. We've obviously, just as two people who watch films, talking about Lord of the Rings. And a lot of these guys now don't really get to see the fruition, the actual fruit of their labours, unfortunately. Like, it's great that R.R. Martin got to see first 7 seasons of Game of Thrones, which are the only seasons that were ever filmed. Yeah. Cancelled. Can't believe they cancelled it.
I think they're waiting until he finishes the books.
That must be it.
I think that's what it is.
That's what it is.
It's logical. Yeah. It makes sense to me.
I don't know why there's tears rolling down my face.
No, why is your eye twitching so bad?
And the bulging vein on my forehead.
Oh no, he's pineal gland.
The pineal gland. But I thought, I don't know, there's something when you're watching where you're going, yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I know that's like, I know that's fake. It looks fake, but at the same time, you're just like, fuck me, it's slimy, it moves well. It's obviously like the actor who played Pretorius is inside this fucking thing. Yeah. And it's just, you know, his face is getting all fucked up. And they did that to him maybe 5 times in the film because he makes about 5 appearances. Yeah, and each one getting more extreme because I guess the longer you spend in that universe, the more you ascend into whatever the fuck those
I think he's just mutating or some shit like that.
I think, or it could be a case he takes on whatever form he self-actualizes. Yeah. But yeah, they don't really explain it. All they know is it's high concept shit. Like, But and when you think about it, the film only had what, 3 deaths?
Yeah, that's a small cast. That's what I always say. Small cast to feel the death more. Like so.
But because it was so grotesque, it feels like a very violent film.
Yeah.
So you could have that one guy just doing all this shit. You could have not killed anyone in the main cast, and he was still gone like, fuck, that was grotesque. And then you would have thought there, oh shit, there was only the bad guy died.
Yeah.
And that's it. But it doesn't, because it's so grotesque. They leaned into it. Like I think like Slither, this is one of the films that they sat down and watched before.
Oh, 100%. I couldn't believe it. Like the creature design is so similar. Like, you know, even the way the skin is and everything. Like
I don't really go for films like that usually. But that said, I've seen them all. You know what I mean? And I've enjoyed them. But the one thing that I suppose I don't get my jollies.
Yeah.
I like slow, creepy, I like intense, I like fast, and all of that kind of things in horror films. But like we get it. That's a very disgusting thing to be coming out of your tummy. You know.
Do you know when you said a minute ago, like the main mission or whatever of a horror movie is to scare you, but it can also be to disgust you.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about like Stuart Gordon stuff, that even though it's not very scary, it's very disgusting.
Yeah.
And like I think the main drives when you're looking at a horror movie is, if you can't be scared, you disgust them. And that's where gore, like, and that's where some
body horror.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but that's the problem with. I was going to say this. The problem with some directors miss the point, like a Rob Zombie or an Eli Roth. A lot of their stuff is just like overtly, like, I know it's torture porn. Pretty much is the
for the sake of it.
Yeah, exactly.
See, that's another thing, isn't it? Because this didn't feel like it was grotesque for the sake of grotesque. Even though, like, if somebody said that, they would have an argument. But I didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And if I could revisit what I said about horror, because you do raise a good point, I would say that it would be create discomfort in complete safety.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like that would be a much better way of going. And unfortunately, when you see in real life, like somebody scratch their nails along and break a nail or something, it creates a queasiness in you.
Yeah, because it's relatable pain.
But you could see someone get punched in the face and go, oh my god, somebody just punched that guy in the face. But there's certain things that create this whoa.
Yeah, it's like a hyperextension of a joint or
exactly.
something.
A hyperextension of a joint is an excellent one. But I think create a discomfort, and there is a discomfort in the absolute grotesque.
Yeah,
it is a type of discomfort.
The fact that
and
it's touching her and her naked body.
And that was it. You know,
and the juxtaposition of a beautiful woman being mauled by a grotesque creature.
Grotesque creature.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know what I mean? And you have these elongated fingers, and what's he do with them? God only knows. You know what I'm saying? He went to Caddy Town.
What did you say? That a beautiful woman, the grotesque creature. Wasn't that your sex tape?
It's pretty much all my relationships. Women were good looking.
I'm always punching up with my grotesque.
With my grotesque arms, with my mangled fingers.
That was powerful, baby.
I like to drool on her face.
But okay, so if somebody came to you and said, "I've never seen From Beyond. Should I watch it?"
Yeah.
Okay, I am the person. Let's role play, Vinny.
Yeah.
I was thinking of watching From Beyond. It's like some of the guys from Reanimator. Should I watch it?
Yeah, like the way I would look at From Beyond is that it has moments of humor and moments of extreme discomfort. It also has amazing special effects for such a low budget movie. It's got Barbara Crampton in dominatrix gear, which is always a bonus.
You know
what I mean?
It's another word begins with B as well.
Boiner. But no, she's really cool. Like,
she's for us, like horror heads, she's a sex symbol, and she has been for decades.
Well, like, if anyone has eyes, she's a sex symbol. Like, the woman's not ugly.
Absolutely. But she's one of our.
I don't think it should be a matter of opinion. I think she is definitely a good-looking woman.
Yeah,
and that's the end of the story.
I think it's just, I think you can probably safely say that she's not an unattractive woman.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And like her sexuality was turned up to 11 in this movie, like, you know what I mean, and which was very different from this kind of an almost shrinking eyelid. Yeah,
like literally, she even just like she had it was that, you know, that 80s thing where a clearly beautiful girl who's in high school and she's like clearly 25, but then all of a sudden, like, she takes out a single hair bobbin and takes off her glasses. You're like, holy she was hot. Nobody told me she was hot. And I was like, yeah, but she was, and then this is that, like, she was just like, yeah, she's absolutely stunning, even if she's in like a raincoat. She's still beautiful. But they leaned into it. Yeah,
because like it was her, like, the same way when we seen the videos earlier on of Dr. Pretorius, or is it Professor Pretorius? Let me check. But we seen like him like whipping the naked.
Oh yeah, that was it. That was it. That was how he got off.
Yeah,
but even before,
that's the kind of Hellraiser vibe I got from it. He was
I know
get this increased sense of pleasure and pain,
torture,
but they're indistinguishable from one another.
Yeah. The angel to some, demon to others. But even I think that's a good way of showing. Like, imagine like this machine does this to you. Your inhibitions lower. You become more sexualized. You deviate from all normal parameters, and then you take somebody like Pretorius who started so far to the left or the right. I don't know which direction it's not a political scale. It's
kind of a la Frank in Hellraiser.
Yeah, a la Frank in Hellraiser, exactly. So he literally was already into he couldn't become aroused unless he was inflicting awful pain on a woman, and that's where his starting point was. And I'm only thinking of it now because when it was Bubba turns on the VHS.
Super racist name.
But he was like, this guy was into some sick shit, and it's only now that I'm thinking about it that actually was a fairly good storytelling device.
Yeah.
For just how outlandish he started with. So, imagine something. It'd be like, imagine something that you got the rage virus, but you already started out as like Ghostface from Scream.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's terrifying. Exactly. It's two individual components that are terrifying that come together to make something.
I think the whole sexualization, that whole dominatrix thing he was into, that domination thing, I think that was a good basis for the character to show his mindset of what he might be like on a scientific level. Because he's constantly looking to breach those new levels, break boundaries or reach borders or whatever. Because like in the sexual realm, like is often a magnification of what you're like in your everyday life. So like if you're an aggressor, oftentimes I know it can be different that you're often aggressive in the room or in sex or whatever. So this person is obviously aggressive sexually. So it shows that he's obviously ambitiously aggressive. Yes. Or aggressively ambitious in his scientific life.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, like, gives that nice little balance of showing what his actual mentality or as a person is, that he likes to push boundaries.
Yeah,
and
like if you were to look at him without judgment, like literally look at him completely without judgment, driven.
Yeah.
So he's driven. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. I wouldn't give anybody like the grotesque actions that people carry. I'm not trying to deviate from that, but I'm just saying if you looked at somebody and go, "Wow, this guy puts like 24 hours into every day."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he worked hard and played hard, I suppose, the simple way of putting it. But you're absolutely right. He was because even your man even said, Jeffrey Combs's Crawford said that even when he was gone and he showed up for the Resonator, he's still a genius.
Yeah,
you could tell that he still had admiration because this guy had created something that was so. Well, I mean, we don't have it now. It was sci-fi. I mean, this It's
like kind of something akin to like Seth Grundle in The Fly.
Yeah,
creating those telepods in 1986 or 85, whenever that was.
86 is what's in my head.
You know what I mean? Like,
actually, and this was 86 as well. Was it 86 as well?
80s is so good.
80s is so good. But you know, I think now that I think horror with this, when I watch this film, I think horror films are trying harder, but I also think us fanboys have pushed them to try harder because they're only ever. It's like they are money-making models. They're not trying to churn out shit. They're trying to make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
But if there was something just gleeful about horror in the 80s, people used to just like to go down and see something creepy and fun or watch scary. Just get together and watch scary movies. 80s was just this. Beautiful time, and this is an excellent example of it. More forgotten than some.
The difference between that's because so many don't.
There's so many, but I'm talking. You had your Nightmare on Elm Street, and that's the thing.
Like there's so many huge, like Friday the 13th and everything, and Halloween and shit. But like I think the difference between 1980s horror in terms of its grotesqueness and how it uses it in terms of modern horror and like Rob Zombie and I think Eli Roth, like who might have tell these guys are successful dudes, but I think they missed the point in that back then you tell the story. And the grotesqueness is an element of your story. It's a plot-telling device. But nowadays, or for that 10-year period in the 2000s when torture porn was really rife, that they thought the grotesqueness is the story.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there.
It's not,
and you don't get a pass on that because a film should never get a pass on not having a story.
Yeah, like because even
like the best example, man, of your point to me is fucking Saw.
Yeah.
Come for me. I will die on this hill.
I think Hostel is better. Saw actually has.
But Saw had a great story, but then it was kind of like, he didn't just build
franchise in itself.
the franchise in itself, and then the DVD, like, it was a great story.
Yeah.
And then it deviated into this, like, wow, like, there's a market here, and then all of a sudden,
it's just like the traps.
They made 4 or 5 films after Jigsaw was dead.
Yeah. The problem with Saw was the first movie was about Saw's motive. Jigsaw, who is he? Who's John Kramer? What is this all about? That's what the whole first one was. And like, who's doing this? The second movie's like Trapped. Third movie, Trapped. Fourth movie, Trapped.
But like, eventually
became the story. They forgot about John Kramer.
They reminded me of the 1960s Batman, where at the end it was like, you're absolutely at our mercy. So we have an acid a tank and a gambling machine and a crane and a springboard.
He's dying. How does he set this up?
Yeah.
He's a dying man.
And just like, and I mean, freakishly outlandish, pre-recorded tapes.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's just the planning is ridiculous.
And then you have to, and again they come in and they retroactively meant, before he died, he freed.
But before he freed that guy and he died, then he freed me, and then that guy dies, and then the next was like, do you know the last guy that was freed by the previous person that was freed by John Kramer? He freed me before he died, and now I'm the new Jigsaw. Then he dies, and he goes, guess what? Do you know the way the last guy that was freed by the previous guy that was freed by the previous guy was freed by John Kramer? He freed me, I'm now Jigsaw. That's the Saw franchise.
Vinny, he never freed him.
Not
storytelling. It's not storytelling. But like these film as cheap and kind of cheerful and cheesy, and I think Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs, I think they're the exact same energy of campness.
Yeah.
Like I actually think they bounce off each other in this kind of pantomime way, but I actually think it's chemistry.
Yeah.
Like I applaud it, and it sounds like I'm not, but I loved it when I was watching it. But
she brings like a grounded realism, and he brings this weird over the top like twitchiness like Bruce Campbell does.
Yes.
Like his facial mannerisms are amazing.
My God, yeah. Like the shock and he was always able to do that.
He's so worried.
In Reanimator, you always knew that he was like amazed by the implications of it, but also enough of humanity left to be horrified.
Yeah.
So
he's
he does that really well.
Himself, and in this one, he's scared of Pretorius. So it's not like
he's a legend. He's a legend. I really, really, really hope to meet the man someday because
Jeffrey Combs.
I just enjoyed his work so
and
thoroughly.
his pineal gland.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll go to the break. We'll get back after the break, rubbing pineal glands. And this is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
And I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
We got Carmack in the back, and we'll be back after break. Now, word from our sponsors.
Happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horathon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
Happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Welcome back from the break. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
We got Carmack in the back. This is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers, motherfuckers. We were talking about From Beyond before we went to the ad break there. We were talking about interdimensional travel, interdimensional fucking beings. We were talking about pineal glands popping out motherfuckers' heads. Barbara Crampton looking fine in some dominatrix gear. We're talking about women getting whipped. And like now, Noel, I want to talk about the climax of this fucking movie. Because I touched on it earlier.
When it happens, doesn't it?
I touched on it earlier and I dragged back because I decided in my head I wanted to keep it for the second half of the show.
Good thinking, because we were kind of a bit fast and loose, but that's the kind of film it was.
And that's the kind of show we are.
And
come on, like we're nearly at 50 episodes at this stage.
Yeah. I'm tipping a cigarette into an empty beer bottle. I know what I am.
I'll do a communal ashtray, my friend.
Thank you.
But no, so we talked about earlier, like, you know, her ascension into this kind of over sexuality. We talked about Crawford, and he kind of trying to fight back against it, but yeah, he keeps getting dragged in more and more into it because of her obsession with it and her kind of exposing him to it, which is the exact.
It's always a good narrative for why people would put themselves in danger.
Yeah,
like if something like Scream it's a human being with a knife, he comes to your house. It's not, you don't need a narrative like that. This needed a narrative, and this had it. And it was a clever little plot telling device that the more you use it, the more you'll want to use it.
Yeah.
So even though the second time was even worse, but now the drive has also gone up, and obviously you're going to have a culmination.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, one thing leads to because pretty much one thing exasperates the other.
Yeah.
The more you. Pretty much your initial obsession leads you to turn on the machine, and as soon as you turn on the machine, it amplifies your obsession with the machine. And interdimension.
In a word.
You know what I mean? That's what happened with Dr. Pretorius, because obviously the time with the interdimensional thing, when it dragged him through, and the more and more he was exposed to that, like, it was actually amplified tenfold into the same way it affected Dr. Crawford or Dr. McMichaels. And what's his fucking Tilling? I
never heard the name before, man.
Tillinghast. So the way it affected them, like, it pretty much it affected her mentally at first and making her more sexual, and obviously because she was exposed to it less, it didn't start to affect her in a physical sense in the same way it affected Dr. Tillinghast, and even more so Dr. Pretorius, because he got dragged through to the other dimension. That's why his mutation was so severe in comparison to his Dr. Tillinghast, what a fucking name. And because his was more gradual, because he was experiencing it from externally, whereas Dr. Pretorius was sucked in and he was experiencing it. And what is their time like? Like, they could be 10 years to every one day here. So his mutation might look accelerated to us, but
that's a good point. You know
Excuse me. So, like, I like the way, like, they show the different stages nearly of the Resonators' influence over them, both physically and mentally, because, like, obviously Dr. Tillinghast was affected mentally because after the first event, when he obviously seen your man's head getting bit off, and he was like a mental wreck when he was going in, but his pineal gland was obviously starting to evolve already. Because
the brain scan, the CAT scans, and
I love those scenes in movies.
Oh, and that's why she wanted to test the experiment. At least, and there's grounds for that. Then, there's grounds for it, because he's saying that all this stuff has happened. Well, the one thing he couldn't do, one thing madness can't do, is increase the size of your pineal gland. It's a calcified gland. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of my favorite moments in movies, that investigatory kind of period, you know, like in The Exorcist, like when they're looking at Regan and they're trying to figure out what's going on with her, because we see her, you know, descending into a minor possession and her body giving into it, but they're looking at it from a medical point of view. And I love that. And as you said, she's like, oh, you might be able to fake who killed who, might be able to hide murder weapons or whatever and clean up blood, but you can't fake a physical change within your brain.
No.
And the only thing that could do this, maybe a machine like this resonator that you're speaking of, that might be responsible. And the only way we're going to know for sure is if we go in here. And it's like, and that, as you said, that's great plausibility. Like, you know what I mean? That's a perfect reason.
And of course, people who are madness quite often ties right into the sciences. And there's always, you know, it's always touched upon that there's a thin line between. Yeah, between
madness and genius.
So
I know, I walk it every day. What can I do?
Weight of the world on your shoulders.
That's why
we call him Atlas Green.
I have a muscle here somewhere. I flexed it one time, I swear. And I popped a brain vessel.
But the culmination at the end of this, where we lose Bubba. They turn back on. She turns back on the machine in the middle of the night. To get back on the script.
The two boys are asleep.
The boys are asleep, and they woke up to like a headache, and
his head starts bulging.
His head starts. And he runs up, and she's just she's just in the shit, because your man is there, Pretorius. And I don't really get, what was it that it was, like flies, or it was fucking
I think it was
locusts of some description, because there were it was essentially, it was like blackness, you know, like there was so many of them, and they were like hurting Catherine and Crawford, but poor Bubba he comes in with his gun and it gets magnetized to the wall and he gets
before
devoured.
that. Do you remember the scene before that where where he gets up during the middle of the night in his red underwear?
Oh God!
No, because he dies afterwards. She dresses up as the dominatrix.
That's right.
Yeah, because like remember during the middle of the night, as you said, she turns on the machine. That leads into the climax. That's not actually the climax itself.
Right.
Because she turns on the machine, your man comes out and starts ripping her clothes off or whatever, and they get covered in the flies like you were saying. But Crawford gets pushed out or something, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he he goes downstairs to kill the power.
Yeah, but the resonator...
And Bubba comes down with him in his underwear for some reason.
And there's a creature in the basement as well because the
vibrations are taking over some shit.
The machine is getting stronger.
Yeah.
They never really explained it, but to be fair, I don't think they really had to.
I think it's because it's just, it's becoming... it's not even the machine is getting stronger. I think it's becoming more unstable.
Yeah.
And the interdimension, the dimension that it's communicating with or whatever is starting to bleed through. I think it's less of a case of the machine's abilities bleeding through. I think it's a case of like Otto Octavius in Spider-Man 2, where the field of control is become unstable.
Yeah.
So it's starting to bleed through. Do you know,
it's
like
accelerating then exponentially.
Exponentially, yeah. So it's kind of like bleeding into our world more and more, you know, that kind of way. Like, and that's why the creature that for some reason that chews on his head and makes him completely hairless. And then he's unconscious, and then she gets into the dominatrix gear.
Yeah, so she finds all like the kinky shit, the Pistorian.
Yeah, she starts like being like a cat. It's like fucking snuggling into a fucking boot or some shit. Yeah. And
I wonder if it was a thing of like a case of like alcohol or anything you like, where it brings something to the surface that was there. Aggressive people get aggressive, and alcohol. Maybe to use my $600 word exponentially, but you know, guys who probably have a short fuse have no fuse.
Yeah.
So maybe she had that kind of sex drive, or it's like sex, because it didn't affect the two men quite the same way. You could see Crawford getting a little bit like, you know, again I said, "Come hither, eyes," but he didn't. She kind of went almost. Yeah. She was like
because Barbara Crampton comes onto you.
Yeah, God, yeah.
You're going to be like, okay, what's going on over here? Excuse me.
But what did you make of the escape from the mental institution? Probably the only segment of the film that really, like, they're in the mental institution once or twice or three times even, but this was the only one that had some of the horror aspect of it, because the pineal gland had already come through on Crawford, and he escapes and he starts sucking people's eyes out.
I forgot about that.
And what was all that shit? Did you see the homeless guy that was like, oh my god, he beat his head off, and he's got like green vomit? Like, is that him? Yeah. But it was green, like it was properly green.
I actually forgot they got taken away and they go back to the house, don't they?
Yeah, they escape and they go back to the house.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, because the cop dude comes in and she's like raping Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
Like pretty much.
That's possible.
It's like, you know, can you rape the willing?
That's exactly, yeah. Carl cut that.
Jeffrey Combs.
Shit out of that, man.
Jeffrey Combs wanted it. But come on, it's Barbara Crampton, dominatrix gear. He wanted it.
Yeah.
I don't care how unconscious he was.
But did you see, like, I liked towards the end where they finally have the final confrontation. There was some body horror, and then there was the point of view of him chasing him.
Yeah.
And then of course he flies down the stairwell, and there was some special effects, and then she's up there, and those eel things are they chase light. They bit off. They were trying to bite her wrist, to bit her over cuffs.
Yeah.
And then she lights a buck of matches for some reason, throws on the ground, and they chase that. Go figure.
Yeah, it's probably just heat sensor.
That's probably it, actually. Yeah.
Like a predator,
because we did see, for one scene, we seen when Crawford's pineal gland little kind of thing, tentacle thing come out of his head. We've seen we seen that the extrasensory experience that he was having. Everything was kind of colourful and stuff like that. So I'd say something like literal heat or fire would be quite beautiful.
How I imagine an LSD trip would look.
Yeah, how I would imagine. Yeah, allegedly.
I'd have to imagine.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I have a great imagination.
Yeah. Helped by all those drugs.
What did you think of the scene? Like, because like when she bites off his pineal gland, that's some foul fucking shit, man.
And it just frees him instantly. I didn't really get it, but yeah, that was. Oh man, that's what I mean. There was some like absolutely gross shit in this.
Yeah.
Like at one point, kind of Crawford and Pretorius are like one being.
Yeah.
Like pulling the faces off each other quite literally, and it was
that scene's fucked up.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
but that's what I was saying. You can't call this a flawless film by any stretch of the imagination, but it never set out to be.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you were able to enjoy it. It
never took itself too seriously.
A film that's what the worst thing you watch is. I always go back to it, and I'll go back to it again. It was the second Transformers.
Yeah.
It was a scene where, like, it was all goofy, stupid shit, and then there's a scene where they're killing Optimus or some shit, and then it was, like, slow motion. Optimus! And I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
you have no self-awareness.
Yeah.
This has been complete and utter satirical bullshit up to now, and then at absolute whiplash speeds, you've decided that I need to have this big emotional investment.
Spider-Man 2.
And that's why this film was so well. Like I said, the campy chemistry between them, it never felt... Even when there was a serious moment or a moment of levity, it never felt out of place at all.
Yeah.
At all. This was actually a very cohesive film inside of the madness that it actually was.
And that's what Stuart Gordon does, though. He tells very clever stories that don't take themselves seriously.
Stuart Gordon, is he still with us?
No, he passed away last year.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
Yeah, rest in peace, legend.
R.I.P. You absolute legend. Yeah, Jesus, you. Sorry, I don't say this facetiously. I was about to say dying breed.
Yeah.
I wasn't. Jesus, I'm hardly trying to have a pop at a man I admire that I'm unfortunately demised. But the expression stands. It's a dying breed. They're not being replaced.
Yeah, there's no Wes Cravens anymore.
No, when's the last? Like when I said to you, From Beyond, most recent example, you'll give me Slither, and I'll give you Slither.
Yeah.
But can you think of other examples? They exist, but they're
off the top of my head, I'd have to have a think about the reason Slither popped out to me is just the creature design.
Yes.
The way the skin
Remember that
looked.
giant woman with the...
I'm so hungry.
Yeah,
But like to me, he reminded me a lot of Michael Rooker's character in Slither when he started to mutate and he started to become more alien-esque, if that's even a word.
It is now.
It is now Potty Snatcher exclusive. But, so like
bounce back ability is a word. Yeah, that's a word.
That's a fucking Ian Dowie, isn't it?
Yeah.
But like the way his skin kind of started to melt outwards in his mouth and stuff. And when you look at Michael Rooker's character in Slither and Dr. Pretorius in this, I think they're very similar. And like as soon as I watched it, I was like, oh holy shit, Slither. James Gunn has definitely seen this movie, like you said, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't just the creature design, but it was the way they used the skin or the way they made the skin.
Yeah.
It looked like, as I said to you earlier, it looked like a wet dick. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just like slimy and gooey, like, you know what I mean?
And you're just watching that, because I was watching it, I watched it on my own, just kind of in bed on my laptop, very legally.
Yeah, of course.
And
through the Manny Legal streaming service.
Through the Manny Legal streaming service. But I was just sitting there, and my dog was sitting on my lap, and I was just rubbing her and just literally watching him doing absolutely nothing else, and I was just like, gross. And I think in the space of the 90 minutes or whatever that passed, I think because you're on your own, you're not exactly having full-blown conversations. So I think just out loud, I probably said, gross. And then I think at one point I said, just unnecessary.
Yeah. Like anytime, I'm really disgusted, I just say, for fuck's sake.
Oh.
And I said,
you know what? I probably had it for fuck's sake. Yeah, you're right there.
Yeah, because like usually when I'm really disgusted, I just go, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
like I watch a lot of these movies for by myself, but I think I did about 12 for fuck's sakes during the 90-minute run of this movie, because like it's fucking foul at times.
And our approach, what we're doing, what this series actually is like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s up to the 10s. The 10s. So that the only actual rule was that it had to be a film of its decade. End of story.
Yeah,
end of story.
Standalone.
Okay, and a standalone.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, two rules. So, but at the same time, it could be anything. And this was definitely, again, to use a word I used earlier, with whiplash, to be like, this isn't the film I watched last week.
Like it's a big change from Alice Sweet Alice.
You know what I mean? Like with the paint blood and the candle wax blood.
Initially, I was going to do American Werewolf in London, but because that has a sequel, I had to drop it because
American Werewolf in Paris.
Yeah, American Werewolf in Paris, and you wanted to do Extras too, and I was saying we should just leave it for a franchise Friday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I was planning to do an Extras. See, the thing is, the only one thing about a podcast, if our dear listeners have listened to more than one, we kind of fan out. We're fanboys.
Yeah.
We're passion merchants.
Yeah.
We want to like them.
Yeah.
And we do. So I wanted to give us something that we could just undeniably love. And then you chose this, and this would be if you wanted to be, if you were a film critic, and whatever parameters a critic really needs to have, you would go, the fuck is this?
But
the lovability of it just really stands out to me.
Because when you look at the rest of the slate, like, you know, and it was just a real unknown quantity because I'd seen it once. Must be way back when because I remember none of it. And what reminded me of it when I was watching In the Search of Darkness, I think it is, the documentary series. And when I watched that, and I was like, holy shit, what is this fucking movie by Stuart Gordon? I was like, it looks so familiar to me, but at the same time, I knew I remembered none of it, you know, that kind of way. Yeah. And then when I dropped American Werewolf, I was like, I want to go weird. And then I was like, what is that fucking movie Stuart Gordon did that I couldn't remember? And like, I literally had to go and like, I couldn't remember the name of it and I had to check it up. And I was like, oh, fucking From Beyond. And then I texted you and then I was just like, I couldn't even remember what it was about. And I just seen small clips from that documentary. And I was like,
in my head, I just remembered attic, machine, rapey doctor.
She's the rapey doctor?
Pretorius.
She's fairly rapey.
She is a bit.
Fairly rapey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, like, it's like he wanted hid, but he was unconscious, dude.
Yeah. No.
His body, his choice.
Yeah, his body, his choice. Fuck. But yeah, if somebody asked me to, I think if somebody asked me, should I watch this film, I'd say, yeah, but it's not on me.
Yeah.
I think you should, but if that turns out to be bad advice, I don't know why you came to me.
It's like, if you like Reanimator, you're going to like this.
Yeah, that's an excellent one.
Yeah. Like, the thing is,
like, for the obvious reasons that it has so many of the same people involved.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, if you do like Reanimator, if you do like the joy of horror, this film is an excellent example of the joy of horror.
What I like about Stuart Gordon is he's able to tell these really insular stories that have massive ramifications.
Yes.
And at the same time, he captures grotesqueness and satire and horror.
Yeah.
And he does it for a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
And you can't argue with that. Like, if you have a small 90-minute movie that is able to make fun of itself, able to have serious undertones, able to have real stakes, able to have decent, if not good jump scares, you have grotesqueness. And you're able to have all that, like, in names, I can't remember the last point I made. But if you're able to have all those things and wrap it up into a 90-minute movie for fucking $4.5 million, like, you know what I mean? That's an 8 out of 10 movie for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So you don't know how to. Yeah, you know what? That's it. It's a solid 8 out of 10. Because sometimes you have to look at a film and go, did it achieve what it set out to?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I can't look at this film and kind of go, oh, Shawshank Redemption was better.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a bizarre thing to say.
Yeah. It'd be like saying, no, you could say Evil Dead 2 is better.
You could say Evil Dead 2 is better.
Yeah.
At least that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, oh, well, this was a better film. I'm like, yeah, well, I suppose I do agree with you, man. But I don't think you're making the point you think you're making.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Because some movies, like, whether one's better or not, but it's like you say, it set out to do something and it achieved its task. It set out to be perverse. It set out to be like groundbreaking. It's like in terms of its special effects.
What's the word? Pushing its parameters or
pushing
whatever.
boundaries.
Pushing boundaries was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, that's Pretorius, and that's what the story kind of is, though, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Like that's what I like about this movie, though, because like whether or not it's silly, it's grotesque, it's sexual or whatever, that all within it's a good horror. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, as you said, it's not scary. Of course it's not scary. Yeah. That's not Stuart Gordon's style. He's not out there building suspense and having Mike Myers come out and fucking kill some teen. He's not. Well,
I don't think there was any jump scares in this, you know what I think about it. You know what I mean? Like, it very much so, like,
creepy out with grotesqueness.
Yeah, when it was time for grotesqueness, it presented it.
Yeah.
You got because we knew when Crawford was running up the stairs and Catherine had turned on the machine. We knew he opens up the door and it's happening.
Yeah,
it wasn't the medicine cabinet.
Yeah, it was close contact grotesqueness.
Yeah.
It was like constantly with skin on skin. It was like a guy in his underwear trying to wrestle it.
But the guy was sadomasochistic.
Yeah,
or sadomasochistic.
What's that mean?
Like sadomasochist.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
And
actually, as I asked the question, my brain.
Your brain called you. Yeah. But I think his ascension tied right into his two passions. One being the absolute extreme sciences, and one being extreme sexual.
Once again, like Frank in Hellraiser, isn't it? Like, that's when I watched this. It's like it really is Reanimator mixed with Hellraiser.
Oh, it was. Yeah.
And my brain tried so hard to combine those two names to make it funny, but I just couldn't make it.
Oh God,
Reanimator. That's the best I could come up with.
Hellamator. No, it's not there.
Reanimators, maybe.
Yeah.
No, we need more. We need to get a think tank. So I want to talk to my Bridgets again.
Yeah. Well, but man, when we're like the biggest podcast in the world, we're gonna have a pun department.
Yeah,
I'll be like, this is garbage. You know.
Yeah. I have to get the
somebody who likes working for cheap and doesn't mind the odd slap.
I have to try to take out Rogan first, though. It's gonna be hard because he knows martial arts.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to wait till he gets older.
Yeah,
I've got 20 years on him.
Yeah. You've got 20 years on him.
Yeah.
So you just need to wait for another 20 years. I'm thinking 20
years, and hopefully I'm wealthy enough to get a security guy to beat him up or so.
Yeah, that's
what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe Beige. Hey, Beige, you're a pretty big dude.
Yeah, Beige is a pretty big dude.
Want to help me out with Joe Rogan?
Even if you are, he's attracted to? The Rock.
Well, The Rock's a handsome man. But so no, to wrap up From Beyond, right? What would you say like about the whole aesthetic, the story, the characters? Do you think like you're going to pay it? Are you going to pay it a visit another time? Would you Would you rewatch it?
At some point, I'm seeing this film again. Yeah.
Will you rewatch
this film? Like again, to touch on the point, it set out and met. Like when he said that's a wrap, he made the film he wanted to make.
Yeah.
He successfully made the film he wanted to make. And if that's not the film for you, that's fine. But he set out and made the film he wanted to make. He kept that one feel and he exploited it. He pushed it. It grew in grotesqueness. It crescendoed in a final scene. Explosion. She jumps out the window. Compound fractures her leg. All of that.
Yeah. Holy shit, man. Her knee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god, that is foul.
Yeah,
that's one thing I like about this. Even in its surreality, like or whatever, if that's surrealism,
yeah.
It still captures this realism in the injuries and like fucking jumping out window. Most people in most horrors are grand.
Yeah,
her fucking knees exploded.
It was nice because her knee exploded, but she was also in extreme shock.
Yeah.
So and I remember the neighbor came up and goes, "What happened?" And I was expecting this like profound line because that's the way it's always set up at the end of it, and she goes, "It ate his head," or something like that. And I was like, "Well, yeah, no, that's. I mean, guess that's technically true."
That's what would stay with you from that experience, though.
Fucking right. Yeah,
you know what I mean, like.
But to bring it to a wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stuart Gordon, for the films that met us, and thank you From Beyond from just being a fucking cacophony of absolute fucking weirdness that was beautiful to revisit and just captures that 80 and it probably doesn't get the plaudits it deserves because Reanimator is below. I have a Reanimator poster and a Hellraiser. Actually, you said Reanimator and Hellraiser. They're the two posters I have in my sitting room.
Yeah, and this is really a love child.
This is a love child of the two, you know. So it's definitely, literally on the walls of my home. It's an underappreciated movie because it is very much so. I can almost like family tree that bitch, you know, but the Reanimator and the Hellraiser and just have it down into it. I
think it just got lost in its own previous successes because
I think it did, and of course, and if a director makes just two movies, he's going to have that movie, and that one will be the bigger one. That's just the way it goes.
Exactly, especially if two of them are quite similar,
and especially if the two are quite similar, one will edge out, and Reanimator does edge it out.
Yeah, exactly. It not only does it edge it out in terms of quality, it edges out in terms of the consciousness.
Yeah,
because I couldn't even remember this movie, so Reanimator obviously started.
Reanimator's,
it was our first episode.
It was our first episode.
That was your choice, like, you know what I mean, like, you know, and like that's a movie that stays with you. And obviously, like, even though From Beyond has qualities, obviously it didn't stay with me because I'd forgotten about it. Whereas Reanimator, as soon as I've seen it, I've watched it like 5-6 times now. It's such a fun movie. Like some of the fucking lines from Herbert West. It's like, "You're a talking head. Well, no one's gonna believe it. Get a job in a sideshow." Like, you know what I mean? Some of the fucking lines in that movie is just so memorable and so quotable.
Yeah.
In comparison to this, even though this is such a good movie, I just think, as you said, Reanimator just kind of edged out, and because they're so similar, I just think Reanimator kind of maybe took its social consciousness mind space or something, and people don't really remember From Beyond in the same sense that they remember.
It lost in the mire. It just gets lost in the mire.
And because the 80s is like the golden age of everything, you know what I mean?
It just was.
You know, so even if you have like a movie that we consider an 8 out of 10 horror in comparison to other horror, back in the day, its contemporaries are The Thing, Evil Dead, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Reanimator,
Good Luck,
Halloween,
Good Luck,
you know what I mean?
Luck,
Child's Play.
Like Gremlins, you know what I mean?
I just want to say, put cocaine back into horror.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say, because look at the 80s.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying, right? It wasn't just creativity, people.
Like Pablo Escobar did some terrible things.
Yeah.
But he put cocaine in horror.
Hashtag cocaine in horror.
Hashtag cocaine in horror. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Hashtag. How do you sum up How do you sum up that movie? Hashtag cocaine and horror.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a beautiful. That's a wrap.
All right, so folks, that was From Beyond, and this is Invasion Potty Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
And we got Cara Mack in the back, and we'll be back tomorrow with Interview with the Vampire. And From Beyond, Stuart Gordan, we say thank you, folks, and we get the fuck out of here. No?
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm just wondering where Stuart Gordan is right now. I like to think he's in exactly where he wants to be. Somewhere really fucking twisted.
Yeah.
Really fun. Thanks, folks. Peace out.
See you next time.